drawing people together. And I think that's what brought us to where we are today.
I came along in this church about 1981. The church was 22 years old, and so was I. This was the room where I showed up as an associate pastor, but then about 4 years later, in 1985, I was asked to be the senior pastor. This is the room where I preached my first sermon as the pastor of the church. This is the room where I was ordained into ministry. This is where it started. This was a special place. And we had all kinds of hopes and dreams for what would happen to this church as we continued on into the future. We weren't sure if we could grow, how much we could grow, but we did know this. We could seat about 200 people. So we prayed for 200 people.
There was a conference in Dallas breaking the 200 barrier. My husband and I signed up to go. We would go to the seminars and then we'd come back to the room. We became excited to think that, oh, maybe we can break that 200 barrier.
It wouldn't take long before 175 people had shown up. We were 25 people from the preferred goal of 200 people. So we thought, well, we're going to see those people come, it appears. So what are we going to do after they get here? We're happy to make some more room. And the master plan of this little church down here had been all along to add a sanctuary on the front corner. The building was built and dedicated. We walked into it in March of 1988, just in time for Easter Sunday. And that would be the first Easter Sunday when we saw over 200 people come to church. I remember moving in that first Sunday and I thought, wow, if we ever could see this room full, it would seat about 500 people. And I thought maybe in my lifetime, we could see this room full.
So again, we prayed that we could just fill that sanctuary. We thought about bringing in some kind of an artist and have a concert and just offer it to the neighborhood free of charge. We talked about having a Christian artist come, and there would have been absolutely nothing wrong with that except that we would have just reached Christians. And we wanted to reach people from the neighborhood, people from the community. We didn't know if they would come to hear a Christian artist. We had Glenn Campbell. He had a slot open just before Christmas, and he came to our little church, and the sanctuary was completely full. We just rejoice that, God uses different people. He uses different circumstances. He uses a lot of things that we don't expect him to use to get his work done. And he used Glenn Campbell to fill our sanctuary. From that time on,
the church just began to grow. Marty's vision and the people's love for the community, love for one another, they started setting their own personal preferences aside, which I thought was huge, and did whatever they could to make sure that there was no hassle factor or any obstacles that people in the community might have to come into church, and people started coming.
In 1988, when we walked into this new sanctuary for us, it was time to change the name of the church. Belle Isle was growing and seemingly had kind of grown and absorbed what was planned originally to be Westridge Hills. It was in those years, between 88 and 99, where the community began showing up in ways we could never have predicted.
When we moved into this building, we were all so filled with excitement. And for the very first time, I think we all believed that our little church could make an impact on this community far beyond what we ever dreamed. I think of the verse in Isaiah 43 that says, "Forget the former things, do not dwell on the past. See, I'm doing a new thing. Now it springs up. Do you not perceive it?" And that verse just really epitomizes, I think, what we felt as a church, that God was doing a brand new thing and he was going to give us the privilege of being part of it.
I'd become very acquainted with the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous, and those became pretty important to us. I did a sermon series on the 12 steps. The word got out in the recovery community that we really believed that God could change us and that there was hope, and that if we would turn our lives over to him, that life could be different. We really believed that.
And we would hear about people going to the 12-step meetings and passing around a cassette tape of Marty's. We began to get a lot of great people, wonderful people, who just helped us to grow.
Many people come through that front door. They have a need. They're here because they're troubled, spiritual problems, marital problems, deaths, and we have the opportunity to help them.
There were people coming from all walks of life who were shocked that a church would welcome them, that a church would be willing to walk alongside them as they got their act together. The message they'd heard for so many years was, get your act together and then come join us. We were telling the community, come join us as we all get our act together by following Jesus and letting him complete the picture that he had for each one of us. Our little sanctuary, seating 500 people, filled up, and then it filled up again. And then it filled up a third time and a fourth time. And we were doing 5 services in this room before it became a reality that a move had to take place. And little did I know in 1988 that within about 6 years, we would be dreaming about a brand new location on the north side of Oklahoma City, out on North Portland.
Faith is confidence in what we hope for and assurance about what we do not see. When I start thinking about all of the things that have happened, all of the people that have been involved, really it comes down to faith. God used 50 people's faith, and he used that to build what we have today in Crossings. That was 50 people. We now have 10,000 people or more that are part of this faith movement. What might he do through us?
The church was an extension of my family. Growing up here, it was a place that I was loved. And not only did I hear that God loved me, but I saw the love of his people in this church.
We have been so unbelievably blessed from those very first days. Things have worked out so well. God's been with us all these years. And that's about all I can say. We've just been so blessed.
God has blessed us. Look at what God has given us.
Everybody say, phew. That's how it's felt for a long time, but God had a plan. And boy, am I so thankful that we got to be a part of it. And I don't believe he's finished yet. Who knows what's ahead? God has done some amazing things, and I'm just so thankful. The Bible shows us that wherever God is at work, it's holy ground. It becomes a holy place. And that's what happened on March 29th of 1959 down at 55th and Lynn in Oklahoma City. There was a building that had been built as a rental property, but it became a holy place. And the man that built it became a believer. Stories like that all over our story. A burning bush became holy ground in Exodus chapter 3. God has certainly been at work on our behalf. We've seen a lot of burning bushes. And I've got a feeling there's more coming. That's how God works when he wants to get something done. And I just hope and pray that we who've come later, we who are the beneficiaries of what God has done thus far, will one day want to join that great cloud of witnesses. And one day we'll be singing our own song of This is Holy Ground. We'll be singing our own song that there's a special thing that has happened here. Great is thy faithfulness. We're going to share together in all of our rooms one song together that'd be good for all of us, wherever you are. We're going to stand. If you'll join me standing, and let's begin to just close our time acknowledging the power of God at work in this place.
We are standing